Have you ever seen a 12,000 pound truck putting out 100 decibels of sound, fly 20 to 30 feet in the air? If not, you've probably never been to a monster truck show. While versions of these gargantuan, frankly, beasts have been around since the 70s, they didn't start doing stunts until the late 80s and early 90s. With the invention of the monster truck backflip ramp and the pod and other jumps that you're seeing in these clips, the trucks have been able to pull off wheelies, nose wheelies, and of course, the world-famous backflip. It was never just the ramp doing all the work to make the trucks perform these tricks. It was the ramp's designers who had to know how monster truck physics work and how they can make these trucks do these different tricks with basically just dirt. Of course, even though these ramps were made for these tricks, it didn't always go well. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about how a lot of these tricks are performed. The tricks I'm going to be talking about include the wheelie, or the slap wheelie, nose wheelie, and the backflip. First, I'm going to start by defining physics and the laws of motion. The definition of physics in the simplest way I can explain it possible would probably be that physics is the study of how things happen. Through physics, we can understand the world around us. Physics is the most fundamental part of science. Newton's laws of motion explain the relationship between physical objects and the forces that act upon them. So, what exactly is force? A force is a push or pull upon an object, resulting from the object's interaction with another object. Whenever there is an interaction between two objects, there is a force upon each of the objects. So let's talk about Newton's laws of motion. Newton's first law explains the inertia. Inertia is a property of matter. Whether moving or sitting still, everything has inertia. Things at rest stay at rest unless acted on by an outside force. Things in motion stay in motion unless acted on by an outside force. The more inertia, the more force you need. Alright, so, for instance, when a monster truck hits a ramp and gets up into the air, the laws of inertia tell us it would just continue in that same direction forever and ever and ever. But here on Earth, as we all know, we have gravity. Gravity acts as a force, pushing down, causing the truck to, return to the ground rather than continuing in the same direction. Now, Newton's second law tells us the greater the mass of an object, the more force it will take to accelerate it. For example, to move a 4,000 pound car, it'll only take about 170 to 250 horsepower, which is what is in your average street car. But for a 12,000 pound monster truck, 250 horsepower, which is on the higher end for your average car, wouldn't even budget. Like, it would not move at all. That's why monster trucks have about 1,500 horsepower, even 1,600 on special occasions. Now, on to Newton's final law, his third law, at least in his most important laws that he's created. His third law tells us, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. An example of this would be when a monster truck accelerates, its tires spin, pushing dirt backwards, and in return, the ground pushes the truck forwards. These are equal and opposite forces. Now that we've covered the laws that we're going to be witnessing the most in monster truck action, let's talk about a couple of the other laws that we have. Mass, the quantity of matter within a given object. On Earth, this is measured by its weight. Friction is the resistance that one surface or object encounters when moving over another. Friction is pretty much always happening when you watch a monster truck, as their tires have to grip into the dirt. It's kind of similar to a Velcro that's using friction. Momentum is the quantity of motion of a moving body. Momentum is measured by calculating the mass of an object and its velocity. And last of all, torque, or rotational force, is a twisting force that causes rotation, while force creates linear motion. Torque creates rotational motion by applying force away from the center of mass. That's going to be important because it's pretty much how a lot of these tricks are conducted. Now that we understand some of the main physics concepts and the things that relate to motion, it's time to relate these terms to actual monster truck tricks. So we're going to be talking about the wheelie, one of the harder tricks to pull off in a monster truck. It's where the monster truck stands on its back two tires. Then we'll talk about the stoppie or moonwalk or nose wheelie, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. It's where the truck stands on its front wheels. This is typically easier than, say, a wheelie, because they can use objects to propel the back end over. But we'll talk about that when we actually get to that part. Lastly, we'll learn about the backflip, where the truck makes a full 360-degree rotation upside down, doing what you know is a backflip. Obviously, everybody knows that, but, we're going to actually be showing how you're able to do that in a 12,000-pound truck, because it is a lot different than doing a backflip on your trampoline. And it takes a lot more skill, actually, surprisingly. The wheelie is definitely a fan favorite. So how is it executed? To pull off a wheelie, or a slap wheelie, which is probably a better description to the average wheelie you'll see in a monster truck show, the truck will need to make a jump. After the truck is in the air, facing upwards, gravity will act on the truck, changing its inertia from sailing through the air to coming back to the ground. When the truck lands, the front two wheels will bounce up slightly higher, though obviously this doesn't always happen. But on best case scenario, they'll bounce up at least slightly higher than the rear. And as the rear tires hit the ground, the driver will need to hit the gas as fast as they can, applying force, creating a rotational torque. The rear wheels will accelerate under the truck and bring it into a wheelie using friction and momentum. To perform a nose wheelie, the truck will need to place its front wheels atop a small ramp and accelerate forwards, hitting the back wheels on the ramp, creating rotational torque, allowing the truck to pitch forward onto its nose. The momentum that the truck has gained from ramming its back end into the ramp would theoretically make the back end just continue and the truck would flip over onto its lid. But using the truck's brakes, they can actually stop that momentum as they use the front end as the balance point, because those are where the wheels are in contact. Once the truck is on its front two tires and using that front end as the balance point, it's a back and forth between braking, accelerating, and decelerating into reverse. It's a lot of back and forth, and it takes a lot of driver skill. But once they've got it going, the more experienced drivers can really hold it for a surprising amount of time. Now, the third and final trick, the monster truck backflip. This jaw-dropping stunt takes a lot to perform. Custom ramps have to be made so they can safely perform it consistently. And even then, it's not always landed. Let's look at actually how this trick is performed. To do a backflip, the monster truck will need a backflip ramp. Typically, they're made from a cargo container with dirt around it as a ramp, but sometimes there's a special occasion where they're on a pod, which is typically used in smaller arenas. The truck will need to approach the backflip ramp, running the front wheels up the ramp, then gassing it. This will create torque towards the container, and as the front wheels run up the vertical container, while its rear wheels continue accelerating up the container, making contact. This creates more torque, and the rotational torque will change into a 360-degree motion up into the air, and as the truck spins, the driver can either continue to accelerate and possibly over-rotate, or stop accelerating to slow the spin. The inner workings of these stunts are just as complicated as the inner workings of the trucks. It's really amazing that they're able to do these shows for only about $50 per ticket, and really amazing that they're able to do these all around the world. These trucks are famous, and at this point, almost everybody knows the name Gravedigger and Max D. It truly is an amazing sport. With that, I will leave you.